Hey guys, I was asked to share my testimony, and yeah, I'm just gonna dive right on in and give it to you raw and real. So my name is Cortney, Francia, for those who don't know me, and I grew up in Maine. My parents had me when they were 17 and 19, super young. And I have a younger brother, Justin, who they had at 20 and 22, so super young again. And then they got divorced when they were 24 and 26. My mom left my dad because my dad was physically abusive to her and to me. I don't have a lot of memories of it, a few and far between, but I know that he was physically abusive, not to my brother, but just to me and my mom. So I was 7 when they divorced, and we moved a few towns over, and my childhood was not, it wasn't the best, but B, it wasn't, I didn't grow up knowing God or Jesus or going to church or anything. It was kind of not even, God really wasn't talked about in my house. Excuse me. If I ever had any questions about God or any interest in going to church with a friend, it was pretty much shot down. There wasn't a whole lot of talk because my mom did not believe in God because she had gone through hell and back in her lifetime between the abuse from my dad, her abusive parents, and she grew up Catholic, but just didn't think that God existed because of what she's been through. So anytime I really had any questions about it, it was shot down. I don't ever really remember. If we ever had any conversation about God, I don't remember it. So that's kind of the backstory of that. I just lived a life not really knowing God, or even acknowledging him or thinking about him really. So fast forward a little bit to when I was about 10 or 11-ish, my mom met my now stepdad. After a couple of years of dating, they got a place together. We got a trailer out in Sabatis, Maine, little country town. And they ended up getting pregnant and having my youngest brother when I was about 13. And most of my memories from that point to when I was no longer living with them was a lot of, it was a lot of heavy drinking. Those two drank a lot. I also come from a long line of alcoholics on my mom's side. My dad doesn't drink. I've rarely ever seen him drink, just anger issues. Lots of drinking, lots of fighting, lots of cops being called to the house, physical, verbal abuse. I mean, it was bad enough just in that sense of what I just mentioned, but also drinking being a priority to them because there were times where we didn't have electricity or we had our phone line cut off because they couldn't pay the bills, but there was always alcohol in the house. So that was a lot of my, childhood, teenage years of them fighting, but also me and my mother always clashing and fighting. I was always, in trouble or being yelled at or grounded for one thing or another. And I mean, I wasn't the best teenager, but I also wasn't the worst. I just really wanted a normal childhood, a normal family life that consisted of like a safe home, feeling loved. I did not have that. I always felt that I was an inconvenience. I always felt that I just never felt wanted. I never felt loved. I mean, my parents would tell me they loved me, but the way they showed it was not, in my opinion, normal. So I did I acted out. I was defiant. I wanted to hang out with friends. I wanted to, join sports. I wanted to have a normal life, but I couldn't because I had parents that, A, prioritized drinking, and B, would not help me or be there for me when I needed them. Examples like, friends rarely came over because my house was not at a open, welcoming home where people even felt like they could hang out. There was always tension. There was always, they would fight in front of my friends. My mom would never, or my stepdad would never want to be like, oh yeah, I'll bring you to your friend's house, or I'll go pick up your friend and bring him to your house. So there was a lot of just being at my house, and my house was very uncomfortable. I hated being at home. It was one of those things where I would rather have been at school or anywhere else, walking around my neighborhood than being at home. And that was also because, like I said, me and my mom fought all the time. She was verbally abusive. She would get mad at me for little things, or if she wasn't in control, I would get in trouble. So many examples. I just don't even know where to start, and I don't even feel like we would have enough time to talk about all the examples of the fights we would get into, just getting mad at me for if I got timed on taking a shower. I got timed on being on the phone. I got in trouble if I walk on my heels. I still do it to this day. I walk in my heels, so I'm a little bit loud, and I would get yelled at for that. I just never felt loved. I never felt like I was wanted, and that led to some severe depression. I would even say anxiety. I don't know if I even recognized it back then, but definitely depression. I did not want to live. There was a few years at the beginning of my high school career where I just didn't want to be alive. Lots of thoughts of suicide, lots of self-inflicted harm. And anytime I went to my mother with that kind of problem or how I felt in that sense, it was never taken seriously. It was, I always got told that I was, cutting myself or hurting myself for attention, that all I wanted was attention. There was no validation to my feelings. And that would be it. So problem never got resolved. I just tried to figure out how I could either end my life or get out of my home situation, or just continue to take razors to parts of my body and cut myself to make the pain that was in my heart go away. And when you go to someone that you love and trust with that kind of stuff, and you are made to feel that the way you're feeling is not valid, I feel like it makes it even worse. So that's when I did start to rebel, and that's when I did start to experiment with drugs and alcohol. I would steal my mom's vodka. About 15 or 16, I started experimenting with alcohol and drinking, taking my mom's vodka and mixing it with my younger brother's apple juice, going to school drunk, hanging with the wrong crowd, partying on the weekends when I wasn't when it wasn't cheerleading season. When it was cheerleading season, I was good. I got good grades. I stayed somewhat on the straight and narrow. We would go to a few parties here and there, but nothing too crazy. But when it wasn't cheerleading season, all I did was party and sneak out of the house and try to be as far away from my mother as possible. Because all we did was fight. It would be verbally abusive, and we've gotten into physical altercations. There's been times when me and her have fought, and there was bruises all over me, and DHS had to be called, and it was just a whole thing. So that was most of like my high school career. My mom kicked me out of the house when I was 17, just a few months away from graduating high school. It was spring break back home, and she actually allowed me to go sleep over a friend's house one night and one night only. The next day I asked if I could spend the night again. She said no, and I got upset because it was one of those things where I had been on really good behavior, done everything she wanted, everything that was asked of me, I did. There was no homework to be had. I was ahead of all my classes. Like, you have to graduate with so many credits. Like, I was already ahead of that, so I didn't even have a lot of classes my senior year. And we wanted to go to a hockey game. Hockey's really big back home. My mom said no, and I said, well, I'm not coming home. I'm going. Like, I just want to have a normal spring break. Like, I'm a senior in high school. Why can't I do this? And the next day when my friends went to go bring me home, my mom had changed all the locks on me. And no one was home. Everyone was at work. And that was the last time I ever lived at home with her. I had to break into their trailer to grab my belongings, and stayed with that particular friend for a little while. And then I had another friend that let me stay with them until we graduated high school. So that's kind of a brief overview of that part of my life. And then the next part of my life, being on my own, was not much better. I hung around with the wrong crowd, pretty much from 17 until, I'd say about 22-ish. Hung around with a lot of drug dealers. I did a lot of drugs. And I drank a lot of alcohol, and just tried to fit in because I didn't know where I fit in. I had very awkward social skills because I didn't get to have a social life throughout my childhood, teenage years, as much as I thought I should have. So I would do things that I didn't really want to do. I knew were wrong, but I did it to fit in because everybody else was doing it. And I've put myself in situations with drug dealers and boys, men, whatever you want to call them, when you're in your 20s, that I probably either shouldn't have survived, or the outcome of the situation should have been a lot worse. And now, looking back on it in my late 30s, I truly believe that God was just looking over me in some of these situations. So I ran with some bad people, did a lot of stupid things. Like I said, got heavy into drugs, heavy into partying, heavy into being around people who just were not good people. My first serious relationship with a boy turned out to be extremely abusive, but I never left him until he left me, cheating on me. But he was physically abusive and very verbally abusive. And that was a few years long. My next relationship that was super serious was much better. So I kind of had an idea of what it felt like to be loved by somebody, but because I was so broken, I was not very nice to him. I did think we were going to get married, but that just didn't work out because I was super mean. And then when that relationship ended, I immediately went into another relationship, back to back. And that relationship was also one that I thought was going to last. He was a friend for a long time. Then we got together, but he ended up being pretty verbally abusive too. And we were together for a few years also. So for about 6 years, I was in 2 back-to-back serious relationships that just broke my heart. And when the last one ended, I was like, I'm out of Maine. I'm leaving. And me and my best friend at the time, I kind of convinced her to come with me too. I was like, let's just do it. We have nothing holding us back. We're both 26. Let's go. And she agreed. So what we did was we planned it out. We came down here. I had visited North Carolina when I was a teenager, traveling with my grandparents. So I always felt drawn. Didn't know why. Now I'm going to give credit to God for some reason. I think he wanted me down here. We came down here, scoped out the area, lined up jobs, lined up a place to live, and we were going to both go back to college. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I did go to college for a few years and got an associate's in medical assisting, which I've never used. But we were going to go back to school. So we did. We moved down here. It'll be 13 years this August. Both decided to go back to school. My schooling was super short because I'd say a year after living here, I got my first DUI. I just had hung out after work and decided to drink and was speeding down the road and they got me. Pretty much a slap on the wrist. About a year later, got another one. Just trying to fit in, just trying to figure out my life, just trying to hang out. And same thing, got another DUI. This one resulted in jail, lost a license for 3 years. That was after the sentencing. I'd been without a license for a while. And probation for 3 years. But towards the end of that, I dealt with that. That was a dark point in my life. I was not doing well, drinking a lot. I worked at a bar. I managed bars, bad relationships with men again, drinking and doing drugs, and just living a very sinful life. And towards the end of that, I met my now husband, Ian, at the bar I work at, but we started to get to know each other. We got to know each other before we became romantic or whatever. I told him everything that was going on in my life, and he was super, supportive, just as in, did you learn your lesson? You're not going to do it again. What'd you get out of this? Don't be stupid, Cortney. So he supported me and helped me. Towards the end of having to go to jail and pay my fines and get my license back and get a car and all that jazz. So I've had a drinking problem for a while. And so fast forward that, we met at 30. So we were 30 years old. We got married when we were 33. Bought a house. Shortly after we started trying for a baby. I never really wanted kids, but he changed my mind, and I think obviously God had other plans. It was not too easy for us to conceive. It took us a while, and we had 2 miscarriages before the pregnancy with Cameron stuck, and now we have Cameron, who's 4 years old. So leading up to now, when Cameron was born, my whole life changed. I know every mother says that, and it's so true. But from the moment we brought him home, there was just something in my heart besides the abundance of love. I've never felt love like this before. But I just knew that I needed to be a better mom than what my mom was. I didn't want Cameron to grow up in a house where there was fighting, abuse, drunk parents, all the stuff that happened to me. I just knew I needed to be better, but I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do. About a year and a half into motherhood, my heart just felt like there was something missing. My heart started to feel like there was a hole, it was just wasn't completely full. I didn't quite understand it because I had Cameron, I had Ian, I had a nice house, I've got a good job, even though I was managing a bar and I wasn't completely happy. It was super stressful. It was still a job that paid the bills, making really good money. And, my anxiety and depression started setting back in again. And I started having these thoughts of, you don't deserve this. This is all going to get taken away. You are not good enough for the life that you have. And my anxiety started ramping up really, really bad. So I started going to therapy. By this time it was, well after Cameron being 2, I started going to therapy and talking about things and, bringing up my childhood and all the abuse that's been in my childhood and what I've been through. I got on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicines, and also lots and lots of drinking. I started turning towards alcohol even more and more, and just kept feeling worse and worse and worse. And then my best friend Hillary, like my first real Christian friend, was like, I would confide in her and talk to her about, how I'm feeling and the anxiety, and have mental breakdowns with her and panic attacks with her about how my life is like falling apart, even though it wasn't, and that everything was going to get taken away from me, and I didn't deserve to have a nice car, a nice home, a nice husband who actually stood by me at my deepest, darkest moments. And then now I have a beautiful son. I just would tell her everything, and she would tell me that I need to start a relationship with Jesus. And to make a really long story short with that, I was not convinced for the longest time that was what was gonna even be a part of my life or help me. But she would tell me that I need to pray, that I should, maybe go to church, talk to her mom. Her mom goes to church, she would send me beautiful Christian music to help me feel better. But it took about 1.5 years of her just speaking truth in life into my world about what God could do for me before I was convinced about it. So, like I said, everything was spiraling out of control, especially my drinking. My drinking was really bad. I was pretty much drinking every single day after I got out of work. And it was starting to take a toll, not only on my mental health, but my marriage, me being a mom. And it was the exact opposite of what I really wanted to be doing. So in December of 2019, my best friend Hillary, her mom texted me, invited me to her church. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go. So I went. Loved it. Loved it. There was just this overwhelming peacefulness that came over me when I was there. Just feeling love everywhere. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna just give this whole Jesus thing a shot. And so I was like, I'll be back. But then 5 days later, I broke my foot, so I couldn't go back. So in that time, I started drinking more because I had a broken foot and I couldn't quit my job because I was very unhappy there. So I quit there and decided to continue to drink, pretty much. I don't know where I was going with that. I kind of just lost my train of thought. And when I got my cast off and was able to drive again, I decided to keep going back to this church. And I did, and I loved it, and I started feeling good, and I started feeling like, okay, like this is the way I need to be going. Let's see what this Christian life is all about. And then COVID hit, and everything shut down. But thankfully, we got to watch things online, and I started getting involved, like not involved, but just like watching church, learning the lessons, feeling some goodness. And then my friend Hillary's mom started a Zoom Bible study with me and a few other women from the church. And I was so excited about that because I've never read the Bible up until 2020. Never read the Bible. Still, there's so many stories I don't know. So we did that, but I wasn't taking anything seriously. I was still drinking a lot because, hey, we were stuck home because everything was shut down. And I always made sure that there was alcohol in the house. But man, I was feeling bad. I was just hungover all the time and not wanting to play with my kid and just mom guilt and just, it was just so bad. And I started being like, I've got to stop this. How can I stop this? And I started, talking to people. A lot of them were like, pray to God. I don't know how to pray to God. So I just started talking to him about my drinking problem and him helping me. Finally, after like feeling like I've probably been drunk and hungover for what felt like, weeks straight, I was like, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. Like, this is the exact opposite of what I want for my child, for my life, for me. So in June of last year, I was just like, I'm done. I just like freaked out and just started crying to God and just being like, I need your help. Like, I need you to help me with my drinking problem. Like, I can't be the person that I'm supposed to be. I still didn't even understand what he was going to do in my life until after I just asked him to just take this away from me. I can't do it by myself. I tried. I can't do it by myself. And I just cried to God. I was like, I asked him to help me. I guess I gave it to him. I just was just like, I can't defeat this demon on my own. I need you. And so he did. He helped me. I've said this ever since I've quit drinking. He removed the taste of alcohol from my mouth because I literally just stopped, like cold turkey, stopped drinking. And that is, in my humble opinion, like all God, all him, because it's so hard for people to stop drinking. And it's usually a process. I just stopped. June 23rd of last year was the last time I had a drink. It's been almost a year. And it's never really bothered me. My husband drinks, not a lot, but he drinks. There's always beer in the house. I've never once been like, I want to drink. It just stopped. I truly believe that God was just like, no more alcohol. Get it out. And ever since then, I'm going a lot longer on my video than I thought I would. Ever since then, he literally has completely transformed my life in the sense of breaking that chain of alcoholics who cannot stop on their own. Breaking such a chain breaker. Breaking the curses that have been over my family with them not truly believing in the goodness of God. Because now, like, I'm just obsessed with the goodness of God and what he has done for me. I truly believe that he's going to take my story and use me to raise up my children knowing Jesus, change my husband's outlook in knowing Jesus. He knows Jesus, but there's more that he needs to know. And I really believe that he's going to use me to show his goodness to my mom, my dad, both my brothers. None of them know Jesus like I do. I don't even know if they even believe in Jesus. So I really believe that he just broke all these chains. He has changed my life. I mean, I am obsessed with knowing who he is, with being in church and being in Bible study and reading the Bible and asking questions and just learning. Like, I want to know Jesus so bad, even more than I already do now. He's just been so good to me. This past year completely changed my outlook on life, and my heart feels love. My heart feels love. For the first time ever in my 39 years on this earth, I mean, I have my husband's love, which has been amazing, but God's love is unlike anything else. My heart, from the moment I gave him my drinking problem and asked him to help me, my heart felt whole, complete, that the hole that was there is filled. He's there. I just feel like a whole new person. I used to swear all the time and cuss, and I don't even cuss anymore. And I never thought that would ever happen. All I listened to is Christian music. I never thought that would happen. Like, the way I look at life and the way I speak life to people, or just speak in general, is not the same person I was before. Like, I had no problem being mean to people. Now I'm like, no. And now my life goal is to learn what I can learn, to share what I can share about Jesus, so more people can know how amazing he is, and to show my family, and to change my family's generational curses and chains, so that my children will find and follow Jesus and know him. Like, it is my life goal now to make sure that Cameron and little Isabella will know Jesus. So yeah, he has just completely changed my life. I think I covered it all. I'm trying to think if there's anything I left out. I think that's about it. I mean, I just hope and pray that this story, this video, points to God. Everything points to God. Everything points to him. He has just completely saved me. I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for him. Like I said, there's just points in my life where I shouldn't have survived, but it was by the grace of God that I'm still here, and I really feel like he is going to use me to help build his kingdom. But I pray that this testimony will help somebody out there who is struggling with whatever, and just to know that God is always with you, and to know that he's so good and faithful, and he can take some pretty crappy crap that happens in your life and turn it into something really good. So I just thank everyone for watching this, and pray that it blesses somebody. Okay.